Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I used to think that, and maybe again, you and I are close to the same ages, so I keep thinking, back in the day, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but loyalty was such a big thing where I felt like I was so loyal to Baylor because I couldn't believe that they actually wanted me to be there. They actually wanted me to play. Now I feel like loyalty can be such a huge asset for a player because as a coach, when so many are leaving, if I was a college player today, I'd try to get into the best situation for me. And then I'd put my feet there and just try to remain, because most likely the dudes that might've been playing over me, they might not be there next year. And you and I both know, what was the issue with redshirt guys back in the day, especially if they only had 1 year, was in that 1 year that they redshirted and then came back, was it really enough for them to learn the system, learn how to be coached, to gel? And a lot of times I didn't think it was. Loyalty, coach, to me, seems like a way to get more now than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, that's a terrific point. And, I think you have a lot more invested in a kid that's loyal to you because of the time, right, that you've spent to them. And I think that those kids are going to have success, right? Just because, again, you get the relationship piece and the time that you've put into a kid that's been loyal, that plays for you for 4 years, that kid's going to have I would think his success rate, right, at that school would be, and be successful. But, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it just doesn't happen anymore. Your loyalty now could be for 6 months, right? It could be for, one season, one summer, one season. It could be for 2 years with guys now. So that's again, that's the tricky part to it. But I agree 100%, and I do think there's still some kids that are loyal out there. I think there's kids that will find the right spot. And then there's kids that leave, like I said, Matt, that it's not because they're disloyal, right? They feel, and who am I, honestly, to hold them back from, something that they feel like they need to do. That the way our business is set up right now, they can do that once, right? And so again, I just embrace it. I think one thing about the red shirt, and I think it's always been different. My brother-in-law, Sonny Dykes, he's a football coach at TCU. And so with Sonny and I we always talk about this because they redshirt freshmen almost all the time, right? There's just very few. Football has just always been that way, right? There's not been a stigma associated with redshirting, right? It's kind of like what they do, right? You redshirt, you get bigger, you get stronger, and then you play, right, the following year. And then in basketball, we've always had this stigma to it, right? If you redshirted, it meant you weren't good enough. Or, and some of the best players we had at Abilene Christian, we redshirted. And they developed. And our big kid, Colton Cole, is a great example of it, right? And so sometimes it's okay, if you're not going to play a lot as a freshman, right? Why wouldn't you use that year for a fifth year when you're 22 years old and you're ready to play? So I'm trading 5 or 10 minutes maybe as a freshman to playing 30 minutes as a fifth year senior, and getting that year. And so I've never understood that stigma. Now, are there freshmen that are ready to play at our level? Yeah. There's freshmen that come in and for whatever reason, they're ready to play. They're physically mature enough, the speed of the game, they're caught up, what reason it might be, they're ready to go. But, to the freshmen that aren't ready, I've always never really understood that, right? Why wouldn't you on the fifth year get it on the back end and play more?
Yeah. And to your point, just to clarify, I think I kind of sped over that too much. My thought was we at times had guys come in they only had 1 year left. So they were transferring. They had that red shirt and then they only played for one more year. And this was back in the day.
Yeah,
And yet you had to sit out. They developed some kind of bad habits, but then was 1 year enough time for them to learn the system, learn the culture, to get back in the flow? That's where I saw, because I can remember, I won't use any names, but players that I thought were older and way better than me coming back for that 1 year, but I had been in the system for 2 years and I could play over them. And I remember thinking, like, how in the world am I playing? There's this idea that that could happen now, even though it's not a red shirt, but guys coming in for 1 year or two, those younger players that have been around in the system, I feel like might have a leg up, because you having trust in them and the time you've spent with them might even be able to help out or trump maybe the talent of an older guy. That, I think that's where my mind was going with that. Just horribly articulated on my part.
I think you're 100% correct, though, right? I mean, you're going to trust and want to put a kid on the floor, right? That's been with you for 2 or 3 years, that understands. You know, he knows the play calls backwards and forwards. He probably knows where all 5 guys are supposed to be. He probably knows what you're going to call before you even call it, right? Like, and defensively, obviously, the way we play, he probably understands it inside and out. And so, yes, I think there's a lot of truth to your point, with the importance of guys that stay loyal to a program and understand that program and the insides and outs and what it's about. They're probably the leaders at that point, right, of the program, and you're probably going to play those kids. There's no problem to it. You would. I mean, you would play them. Yeah.
At the high school level, style of play is something that's really interesting to talk about, because for most of us that don't recruit, who we have is who we have. And maybe we have a style of play that we love, but does that really fit this team? And you might have to adjust from year to year. At the college level, the thought is that you can recruit the players that fit the style of play or the system that you love. I don't know if things have changed a little bit with how fluid things are now. So do you have a style of play that you just love to teach? This is who we are, and you find players for that? Or are you going out getting the best available and we'll kind of adjust however we need to?
Hey, to your point, that's why I have so much respect to high school coaches, right? Because I was there. You know, I coached in high school for 5 years, I guess it was. And
where were you at?
I was at South Garland High School as an assistant for Garland.
Nice. No way.
No, I was the head coach at Saxe High School in Garland when it started. So that's where I met my wife. Yeah. So she was a math teacher. And so we started Saxe year one there. Yeah. So
what year were you at Saxe?
Oh my gosh, man.
Do you remember that?
47. It was graduated in 98 or 99. So 2 years south. So probably around 2004, 5.
Wow.
McKinney North and we both started at the same time. Coach Kraft and I both we played each other like 15 times. We had nobody else to play.
I was at Naaman Forest with Jeff Clarkson in 06-07, so probably missed you there. But yeah, and then with Wes Watson at McKinney for 5 years. So Kraft, he's one of the best.
Yeah, we would have no one to schedule. We'd try to schedule for like 3 months, and then we'd just say, okay, what dates? I said, Coach, I got like 12 open dates. He's like, I got 10. So we just played it. But to your point, like that's why I have so much respect for high school coaches, because you gotta each year you might have a like I know at Faith you guys play fast, do it. But let's say you have a big kid, that comes in and you want to, what do you do for that kid, right? Like do you slow it down, and then the next year you don't have a big kid and you're smaller and you got 5 guards and you want to dribble drive motion, right? And so you're having to put that in the summer and then the fall, and with your group. And so I've always had so much respect for that. I think us as college coaches, we can recruit to a certain system. I think that does help us, right? So we can stay pretty consistent with what we do or what we believe in. But I do think you have to adjust each year, right? You can't necessarily go out and recruit it every time, right? You might have better bigs on your team 1 year that is developed. Let's say in your program, or you were able to go. And then the next year, your bigs maybe aren't as good, or your guards. For instance, last year we couldn't shoot the ball at all, Matt. We were one of the worst shooting teams. I should have brought you down here, right? Just
Coach.
You would not have liked our team last year, man. We couldn't shoot, but our guys played really, really hard. But we had to become one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, right? If you're not going to make any shots,
get closer. Get closer
to the rim, and we had to come off because that was the only way we could score, right? Somebody asked me the other day, well, are you guys going to continue to be one of the best rebounding teams? I said, well, I hope we are defensively, but offensively, I hope we make more shots. And
That's such a good point.
you don't want to
Not
be
if
the
we're
best
shooting better.
yeah, you don't want to be the best offensive rebounding team in the country. I think you're always right. You're always stealing stuff as a college coach. I think, from other people and what they're doing, and what you like, and then at the same time, you have a core right there of values of what you believe in.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to break off, and you got to adjust according to your roster, right, and your team, and what you have that year.
I think that's the great place to be, is where you're dealing more with concepts rather than a specific system that's rigid that you're trying to force everybody into. Because I feel like concepts can change and flow, and they can also be like Chris Oliver with Basketball Immersion talked about musts versus possibilities.
Yeah.
Like for some of your players, they have to pass and get out. That's a must.
Right.
Other players have the ability to maybe hand off and ball screen or fan away. So I think when you're dealing with, I don't know, maybe any level, but when players are coming in and out, but you still have this way of playing that you just believe in, because I feel like, Coach, you got to believe in what you're teaching them. Because if it's a system you don't really believe in, I feel like they're going to feel that, they're going to know, or when things get tough and you abandon it, then they'll really know. But with concepts, maybe you can have a different look. I don't know what we do it if we had a really big guy. It's never happened in 11 years. We've morphed some, what our big would be 6'4", 6'5", slower guys. We've made them guards, but I don't know what we do with like a 6'9", kind of slow-footed dude. But if he demanded the ball in a way that like we will win more, we'll score more with him doing that, yeah, I'd have to adjust some concepts.
Yeah, you'd have to, you have to. And again, it's our job is to put the ball in the basket, right? And you got to try to find the ways to win games. And, so yeah, we've made some adjustments to what we've done, in the past. We're trying some new things, this year. What's all these new zooms and wiggles and waggles and
many different.
I'm becoming an offensive genius right now. I've always been vanilla, right? But I'm starting to. I could get into conversations now with Grant and Linder, right? I could be on the phone call with them.
Sometimes I feel like they're just making words up, like just to sound like, yeah, we're gonna zing this time, and then we're gonna like what? Because and then you hear like 5 different people use different language for the same action. Right. So, Coach, I think you and we just make up our own language and sound really smart.
Yeah, we sound good. Like, yeah, I get on these deals now. I'm like, yeah, we're zooming and we're waggling, and we're wiggling, and we're zinging. Yeah, he knows his stuff, but he studies European ball. But
that's right. Yeah, all you got to say is European ball. People go, oh wow.
He's really good. He knows his stuff, right? But
so perfect scenario though. Like you have the players that just fit. Maybe it was what you had at ACU for a little while there. When you're developing guys, like you said, and that's a good point though too. Is whatever style you play, the development needs to mirror that, mimic that, lead to that success. What's your favorite offensive just way to play?
Yeah, we've morphed. When I was at Abilene Christian, we ran ball screen motion when I first got the job, and then we ran motion for a couple years. And I just didn't like motion, man. I just didn't feel like I like the movement in motion. I really enjoyed coaching motion. I thought it was a lot of fun to coach it.
Yeah.
But we just couldn't ever get the players there at Abilene Christian, and so people would just switch us or do things right, and then we couldn't win the one-on-one battles. And so I got to where Coach Gillespie became a really, really good friend. He was the coach at Ranger Junior College, and I spent a lot of time with him. And he kept trying to convince me to go to 2-game, right? The old school Bill Self that Bill and him ran forever. And he just thought it would bring a lot of discipline to our team. We wouldn't turn it over as much. We would understand where we were getting our shots. It would bring a toughness, a physicality to us around the rim. And then we could get creative around that, right? But you could always get back in transition. You were always a good rebounding team on both ends of the floor. There was a toughness. It would match how we played defensively. And so we made that switch probably my fourth, I guess it might have been my first or second year that we were Division I, right? Not the D2 years, but we made that switch and it changed our program, right? Wow. It was really successful for us, and our guys bought in. It kind of fit our culture because, you have to cut and move a lot, and you got to depend on other guys to cut and move, and you got to depend on bigs at times to be unselfish and to steal their guy to create driving lanes, and then the guards have to be unselfish, obviously, to throw the ball inside. But we touch paint a lot, right, in the high-low stuff. And then, man, I'm not different than any other coach out there, right? Like at the end of the day, we're going to have our best players are going to have the ball in their hands, and if that's a middle ball feint, if that's a set that we're going to run, right, we'll break off of it, and we'll. But I like it, man. The ball moves. We usually have a tendency when our teams are really good offensively, we'll have 4 to 6 guys in double figures, right? We don't necessarily have one guy that averages 25, right, and everybody else averages 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
The ball moves. It touches lots of different hands in each possession, and a lot of guys get to score, right? Depending on, 2 games, kind of those deals, like if you want to guard us this way, okay, then these guys are probably going to score, right? And if you're going to guard it this way, then these guys are going to have that night. And so you have to be unselfish enough to understand that and how the defense is going to guard you and play you. And so that's how we've played, right? And I guess in the last 6, 7 years, 8 years, and something that I believe in. But again, we're also going to get the ball right into our best players' hands when we need baskets or if things aren't working. And then we're trying to get creative, like I told you, right, in different ways that we can make two game better, and we can get some more of the zoom and the wiggle and create some more double gap things, personnel driven for our team to be more successful offensively.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.